Programmer jobs in America just dropped 27.5% in 2 years. Not a forecast. That already happened. But here's what nobody is telling you. While those jobs vanished, developer wages in the same industry jumped 17%. How can jobs disappear and salaries explode at the same time? Which programmers are actually getting replaced? And which ones are earning more than ever? And what does this mean for anyone building a career in tech right now? The numbers behind this story don't just tell one narrative. They tell two completely opposite stories, depending on where you look. And the difference between those two stories might be the most important career lesson of the decade. But here's the part that makes this even stranger. While programmer jobs cratered, other roles in the same IT sector actually exploded. Information security analysts grew in double digits. AI engineering positions multiplied. The technology industry didn't simply shrink, it reshuffled, violently and unevenly. Let's start with the damage. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, the official scorekeeper of America's job market, confirmed that overall programmer employment fell 27.5% between 2023 and 2025. That decline accelerated right after generative AI tools hit the mainstream in late 2022. And it didn't stop there. Tech internship postings dropped 30% since 2023. Only 7% of new hires at major tech companies are now recent graduates, down from over 9% just 2 years earlier. But here's where it gets strange. Stanford University researchers tracked millions of payroll records through America's largest payroll company and found that the pain is not spread evenly. Developers aged 22 to 25 lost nearly 20% of their jobs since ChatGPT launched. Meanwhile, developers over 26? Their employment held steady. Some even grew. Think about that for a second. Same profession, same industry, same time period. But if you were under 25, your odds of keeping your job dropped dramatically. If you were over 26, you barely noticed a change. This isn't a random coincidence. This is a pattern, and it reveals exactly what AI is targeting. When AI tools first arrived, most experts predicted call centers and data entry jobs would be hit hardest. Nobody saw this coming. Hugo Milan, president of the Science and Technology Division at staffing agency Kelly Services, said the biggest impact by far landed on programmers. Why? Because coding work is structured and solitary. Tasks that can be clearly defined, broken into logical steps, and executed without ambiguity, those are precisely the tasks large language models handle best. And that description fits almost all entry-level programming work. The proof is everywhere you look. Salesforce paused hiring software engineers entirely, with CEO Mark Benioff pointing to AI efficiency gains. Google confirmed that 25% of its code is now AI-assisted. The Stack Overflow developer survey found 84% of developers now use AI tools, and 65% use them at least weekly. A controlled study by Amazon Web Services found that developers using AI coding assistants completed tasks 57% faster and were 27% more likely to finish successfully. Another study showed AI-generated code descriptions cut human review time by roughly 19 hours per project. These aren't small improvements. This is the job being rebuilt from the inside out. And here's what this means in practice. A startup that used to need 5 junior developers to build a product prototype can now do it with 2 experienced engineers and AI tools. The math has changed. The economics of building software have fundamentally shifted, and companies are acting on that math right now. GitHub Copilot is used by about 50% of developers. Newer tools like Cursor and Claude are gaining ground fast. The tooling isn't slowing down. Now, here is the part that breaks most people's brains, because everything I just told you sounds like a disaster for programmers. But the wage data tells the exact opposite story, and this is where it directly affects your earning potential. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas published research that found something most people can't explain. Employment is declining in AI-exposed sectors, but wages in those exact same sectors are rising fast. Since late 2022, nominal average weekly wages in computer systems design rose 16.7%. The national average? Just 7.5%. More than double. If AI were simply killing jobs, wages would drop right alongside employment. Supply goes up, price goes down. Basic economics. But that's not what's happening. Companies are paying dramatically more for the people who remain. Why? Because those people are dramatically more valuable. Stay with me here. Because what I'm about to explain next is the single most important insight in this entire story. It's the reason some programmers are panicking, while others are getting the biggest raises of their careers. And it comes down to two words most people have never heard. Economists call them codifiable knowledge and tacit knowledge. Codifiable knowledge is anything you can learn from a textbook. Syntax rules, framework documentation, boilerplate patterns. This is exactly what AI excels at reproducing, because it's structured and predictable. Think of it like a recipe. If the instructions are clear, anyone can follow them, including a machine. Tacit knowledge is completely different. It's the instinct a chef develops after 20 years in the kitchen, knowing when the sauce is right without measuring anything. For developers, it's understanding gained through years of hard experience. Knowing why a particular architecture decision will create problems 6 months from now. Understanding how a legacy codebase actually works, despite what the documentation says. Recognizing that a technically correct solution is the wrong solution for this specific team, this specific deadline, this specific business context. You can't Google that. You can't prompt that. You have to live it. The Dallas Fed data proves this split perfectly. Occupations with higher experience premiums, meaning jobs where veterans earn significantly more than newcomers, are the ones most exposed to AI. But they're also the ones where wages are climbing fastest. Programming has one of the highest experience premiums in any profession. AI can replicate what a textbook teaches. It cannot replicate what 10 years of shipping production code teaches. And this is exactly why young developers got hit hardest. They enter the workforce by handling tasks that are highly codifiable, writing basic functions, building simple components, fixing straightforward bugs. These are precisely the tasks AI now handles well enough that companies question whether they need a human for them at all. If your entire value is doing something a machine can now do in seconds, the math doesn't work in your favor. But experienced developers aren't just surviving, they're thriving. A study of over 36,000 software professionals found that developers who heavily use AI report spending more time in a creative flow state, higher job satisfaction, and lower burnout. 76% of developers now integrate AI into their daily work, and 89% of organizations are making AI adoption a strategic priority. One manager overseeing 20 programmers estimated that AI coding agents more than doubled his team's output over the past year. Not replaced his team, doubled what they could do. The developers who kept their positions aren't working alongside AI reluctantly. They're using it as the most powerful productivity tool they've ever had. And here's where the fear narrative completely falls apart. Gartner, one of the most respected technology research firms in the world, published a report explicitly titled, "AI Will Not Replace Software Engineers." Their analysis found that 80% of the engineering workforce will need to upskill by 2027. Not because their jobs are disappearing, but because their jobs are transforming into something fundamentally different. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects software developer employment will grow nearly 18% between 2023 and 2033, dramatically faster than the national average. The World Economic Forum projects 39% of job skills will transform by 2030, not disappear, transform. An Anthropic study found nearly 70% of routine programming tasks have already been affected by automation. But system design hasn't been automated. Architectural decisions haven't been automated. The judgment call about whether to refactor a critical module 2 weeks before launch hasn't been automated. These are the skills that explain everything. They explain why programmer jobs dropped 27%, while software developer jobs dropped 0.3%. They explain why wages are surging even as headcounts shrink. They explain why employers are now willing to pay a 31% salary premium for engineers with AI skills. The data isn't confusing once you understand this divide. It's perfectly logical. Companies don't need people who can write code anymore. AI does that. They need people who can decide what code should be written and why. They need people who can look at what AI produced and know, instantly, whether it will hold up under real-world pressure. That's the skill set being rewarded right now. This shift creates a paradox most people haven't fully processed yet. AI is simultaneously the biggest threat to entry-level programming careers and the biggest opportunity for experienced developers in a generation. If you're a senior engineer, AI is a force multiplier that makes your depth more valuable than ever. If you're trying to break into the industry through the traditional path, that path is narrowing fast. Computer science students graduating today are entering a completely different industry than the one they were promised when they started college 3 or 4 years ago. The traditional apprenticeship model, where juniors learn by handling simple tasks under senior supervision, is breaking down because those simple tasks increasingly go to AI. But the demand for people who can architect systems, validate AI output, make judgment calls under uncertainty, and understand the messy reality of production environments. That demand isn't shrinking. It's growing. The role isn't disappearing. It's being redefined. And the people who adapt to that redefinition are earning more than ever. The future of programming is not about whether AI takes your job. It never was. It's about whether you're building skills that AI makes more valuable, or the kind it makes worthless. Drop a comment and tell me, are you seeing this shift in your own workplace right now? If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe, because this channel breaks down what's actually happening with AI, not what someone is trying to sell you. And tap the next video on screen, because it breaks down the skills that separate developers who thrive from the ones who get replaced.